So those games were played at NRG Stadium in Houston.
Right.
It was the first time since the UIL has done the Central Site state title games, which first happened, I believe, in 2010. It's the first time that they've done it somewhere other than AT&T Stadium.
Right.
So it moves to NRG Stadium. We don't particularly know. It's a chicken and an egg situation, but at some point, the NFL schedule came out, and the Cowboys had a Saturday night game against the Jets at home on the Saturday of state title game weekend, which then, I don't know if this was a planned move by the UIL or not, but that necessitated a move away from AT&T Stadium.
Right.
Which brought it to NRG Stadium in Houston.
Yes.
And at the time, we were like, oh, okay, spread it out a little bit. Arlington's had a chance to have it for the past five years. Let's give another part of the state an opportunity.
Yeah.
I don't think it is overstating it to say that the move to NRG Stadium was not great, Bob.
Not great, Bob. Not great.
We now have more details courtesy of our friend Corbett Smith of the Dallas Morning News, who got a hold.
And I do feel like before we go into these, little tirades about the games in Houston, it's always important to note that everyone we ran into was busting their butt to do a good job.
Sure.
People at NRG were great. The people of Houston were awesome. However, with that disclaimer out of the way, go forth, young man, and lay it out.
It's a numbers game, okay?
Yeah.
We now have more new. First of all, we knew that it was a big step back.
Right.
Because of the attendance.
Right.
We knew that, okay? In 2014 at AT&T Stadium in Arlington.
Yep.
The UIL brought in 250,652 people. Mm-hmm. 250,000 people went to the state title games at AT&T Stadium in Arlington, okay? Over the 3 days.
All right.
All right? In 2015, 156,413.
For a difference of
94,509 fewer people.
That's a lot.
Let me Google something real quick.
A tradition like no other. DCTF Live, Greg live Googling.
Yes, I'm Googling something. I've got to look this up because I'm a big fan of percentage change. I think that's a fun statistic. So let me do that. If you're going from 250,652 down to 156,413. Any guesses?
30%? I don't know.
Oh, I put in a comment. I can't do that.
I feel like I need some Greg Googling music,
That is a 37.5% drop.
Hey, I was pretty close.
37.5% drop in attendance.
Look at the big brain on Brad.
And don't tell me that the UIL's not paying attention to the attendance numbers. They know.
Yeah.
And we could tell when we were there
that
the attendance was noticeably smaller.
Right.
Okay? And now we have even more details about why it was a bad deal for the UIL. We have even more details. That in 2014, the UIL paid $150,000 for the 4 days at AT&T Stadium. The 3 days that you're used to, the Thursday, Friday, Saturday, plus the Saturday that they had the six-man state championship games.
Not a bad deal.
Not a bad deal.
Turns out.
For the 3 days, not including the six-man state championship games at NRG Stadium, NRG Stadium charged the UIL $495,000. They charged them more than 3 times what AT&T Stadium charged them for one fewer day. For a fewer day. Because I think, first of all, this is a supply and demand based economy, and the NRG Stadium knew they had UIL over a barrel.
Yeah.
They knew that they could charge them whatever they wanted. And so
it's an
they
interesting strategy if you want it to ever come back, by the way.
So from the attendance to now the usage fees, we know that the state championship games at NRG Stadium in Houston were a bad move for the UIL.
Right.
That's not up for debate anymore.
No.
That has been settled.
Yeah.
State title games in Houston in 2015 was a bad deal for the UIL. So, the question becomes, where do we go from here? What does the UIL do from here? I think it's worth mentioning that we need to think about the fact that we want to have it spread out, right? We want to have it spread out. That we don't want it only to be at AT&T Stadium, okay? We want it to be all across the state because it is a Texan tradition like no other.
Right.
We also need to realize a couple of things. One, AT&T Stadium in Arlington
Yes.
is a draw itself.
Yeah.
People want to go to that stadium. And as nice as NRG Stadium is, and as nice as the Alamo Dome is, it doesn't have the same drawing power as AT&T Stadium. That's just the bottom line of it.
Yeah.
This isn't a real crazy opinion. It's just the truth of it. So what do? I think, if you make me king of the world,
right.
and I can make it, I go with an A-B-A-C situation.
Okay.
Where
right.
every other year the title games are at AT&T Stadium in Arlington.
Right.
And then you're going to rotate it. You would go AT&T Stadium in Arlington, NRG Stadium in Houston. AT&T Stadium in Arlington, Alamo Dome. Because the other thing is it needs to be indoors.
Yes, no question.
Because if it needs to be indoors on turf. Because if you're going to have 10 games,
right.
you don't want weather to play a factor, and you cannot have natural
right.
grass. That will get torn up in one game.
Yeah.
I think that's probably the best, fairest solution. The other thing about it that I think that people don't realize, DFW and AT&T Stadium is actually relatively central when you
right.
talk about the state.
Right.
You know? Yes, if a team from El Paso makes it to the title game, they're driving regardless. The game could
right.
be anywhere, and it would be a long way.
Right.
But AT&T Stadium is relatively centralized.
Right.
San Antonio, also relatively centralized.
Yeah.
Houston is not. Houston's in the southeast corner of the state.
Yeah,
and so when you talk about Canadian,
right.
now that's an extreme example, but when you talk about Canadian
sure.
making that travel, that's a long way.
Right.
So I think that the ABAC idea is what I would go with. I would go with AT&T Stadium followed by NRG Stadium, because I think that you want to balance spreading it out with the fact that you're going to do better at AT&T Stadium in Arlington than you're going to do anywhere else.
Right.
So
that's reasonable.
It was not great for the UIL there, according to Corbett Smith of the Dallas Morning News and the records obtained by the Dallas Morning News. Just not great. Not great.